So welcome back to the As Told by You podcast. We've got a cool guest on today, Khali Gallman. And did I say that right? Khali? Khali, good. I'd meant to ask you that. And mine is Bill, so it's kind of boring. Nobody gets it wrong. So I mean, I don't understand how you have time to come and sit with us for an hour. That's amazing. So where did all this come from? What's the motivation to do all of this?
I think working for the city kind of started it. That was my first job out of college. And in that capacity, I ran the City of Columbia's internal and external newsletter, the proclamations, the press releases. I followed the council members around. So at that time, our now mayor was a city council member, and him, Tamika Isaac Divine, following them around, getting them interviews, that type of thing, kind of learning like how to connect Columbia. I'm from here originally, but I'm from Northeast Side. I graduated from Spring Valley, so kind of learning more about what's going on internally and spreading that awareness so everyone can kind of stay in the loop is like a passion of mine.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then a realtor too.
As a realtor, yes.
Well, they are the center of community.
Definitely, definitely.
As Brian knows well. So talk to me about being a realtor. Let's start with that. What brought you to being a realtor, and what is that? What's the appeal to that to you?
Well, I had always been told that I would make a good realtor because I can't stop talking. My friends call me the friend to the friendless because I always make a friend everywhere. And I got licensed 5 years ago now, almost 5 years before COVID. So I came in at a really good time. Interest rates were amazing.
Made it look so easy.
Oh my gosh. Now, I mean, it's starting to pick back up. I have 4 houses under contract now. So I'm like, okay, things are starting to get a little normal. But just that sense of helping people. Most of my clients lately have been from out of town coming here. Some are coming back. Some are brand new. So it's just that sense of community to try to help people get, connected. I love the fact that people can look at their numbers if they're selling and say, oh my gosh, now we can afford this, and this with this sale. And on the opposite side of buyers, like now we get to start our own family, we get to move up, we get to move down. So providing those solutions are kind of like a passion of mine.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a definitely a great motivator, to do it, facilitating people in times where they're, able to help them go somewhere. That's really cool. So I'm fascinated with, so tell me what you did in Raleigh. What brought you to Raleigh?
So I left the city of Columbia in 2012 and moved to Raleigh. For the first 2 years, I worked as a marketing outreach specialist for a federal foreclosure prevention program. I traveled all 100 counties of North Carolina and met with mayors, city council members, chambers of commerce, just helping them to be informed about a foreclosure prevention program. That program was one of the programs where people could have their mortgage paid if they lost their job or go back to school. So for 2 years, that was a 2-year contract. Loved Raleigh so much, decided to stay, and then went with Durham County, and then eventually became the PR director for Durham County Department of Public Health. So in North Carolina, their departments of public health are by county, as opposed to here we had DHEC, which is statewide. So I was the PR director for Durham County Public Health.
Cool. What brought you back to Columbia?
My grandma, my grandparents got sick, and I'm an only child. I had to help my mother and father take care of her before she passed. And so it was just kind of a challenge I saw for them. She, had dementia, diabetes, dialysis 3 times a week, 20 pills a day, that type of thing. And then with the dementia, I was kind of like the only person she remembered. So it was one of those things where my mom was like, please give her medicine for her, So I left Raleigh and came back here.
So I always find it interesting when people are kind of dynamically doing things like you are, and they come to Columbia, to do those things. Like could do it anywhere, but choose to do it here. What is it about Columbia that makes it a good environment for cool stuff to go on?
I think because I see a potential for where it could go. One of the examples I always give is when Mayor Bob was mayor, I remember he had a conference at the what is now Mass General Store on Main Street. It was before it was there. And he hired some economists. I think they were from like Seattle or Minneapolis. They were somewhere in the Midwest. And they were assessing Columbia to see what we needed to have to be considered a big city. And they chewed him up. Some of the locals were just like, we don't want it to be a big city. We want it to stay a college town, that type of thing. And so I saw kind of the brunt of what he went through. And so I noticed that from that perspective, people only want one thing, but from a larger perspective, people wanted more. They wanted more things to do. They wanted talent retention, which is why Daniel and Tamika came up with CORE, which I was a board member of. So there are initiatives out there because people want to stay here if they have things to do.
Yeah, and it's an interesting dynamic too, because when we go to cities, even like Greenville, stuff like that, you see how dynamic Greenville is, but then living there is not quite as much fun as visiting, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to have the congestion, you're going to have these other things that go along, probably high taxes and other things that happen in a city like that. How does Columbia maintain that balance? How do we do it where I can always find a place to park? I always get into restaurants that I want to get into, but also we have opportunities to go on. How do we maintain that balance?
That's a great question. I would say keeping the same community aspect. Columbia is very small. They always say that 6 degrees of separation, but here it's more like 2. I think keeping that sense of community while knowing the core of what we are can help with, keeping us keeping us more in tune with each other while we're growing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm trying to expound more, but
no, but I mean, that's what it, look, we choose to do business in Columbia primarily because well, you look at our wall here of Polaroids, right? I mean, this is how connected everybody is. Everybody comes in this studio, looks at this wall and goes, oh, I know that person. I know this person. I know that person. And it's the kind of community we've got, right? That you're not ever that separated from just about anybody you want to know. Like, I'm sure you could introduce us to Daniel Rickerman, who I want to get on the podcast. So, that kind of thing, right? It's connected enough that we can do that. And I think, as we start to add opportunities in Columbia, we're hopefully going to add opportunities that fit our personality well, right? And not create congestion and not create these other problems that we run into. Because I think that's a big challenge that you hit when you develop maybe too fast or develop over a certain element. Lexington's going through it,
Yes.
busting at the seams,
Yes.
and it's hard, to navigate something like that. Because we work with the Builders Industry Association, and their big focus of theirs is Lexington because of the restriction on building. They just can't handle any more people in there.
And they're getting another target, so
yeah, sure,
it's gonna get even worse.
Of course, yeah, can't stop progress, right?
Yeah,
it's definitely a challenge. Well, one of the reasons I reached out to you to be on the podcast was the free times list. So talk about that a little bit. What's that like? And tell me what landed you on that list. That's a great list to be on.
Yeah, it was a huge surprise. Actually, just saw Chase Heatherly on Saturday, but he's a publisher of Free Times, but he also was on CORE. He was actually the chair when I came on the CORE board. But I was talking to him on Saturday. I was like, do you know that I was like out celebrating my birthday and like got the text in December and was like, "Oh my God!" And I ran to the bathroom. I called my mom. I was like, "Mom, is this real?" But it's good to be, I guess, recognized, because I do all these things because I want to. I'm not really sure who's looking or listening, which is actually kind of scary now because I'm getting people coming up to me. But I enjoy it. They put me on the list because of 803 Day and Black Eats Week. They did a feature for the restaurants back in June, and for 803 Day, it was just, like a media frenzy. So I'm appreciative. It's obviously humbling, but it's also like, oh my gosh, what are you going to do this year?
Yeah.
It's
gotta
gotta
follow
be
it
better.
up.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, just got to ramp it up.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear about Black Eats Week because I'm not sure I knew about it.
And Bill's a foodie, so he would
I
definitely
am
participate.
very excited about this idea. I don't know what it means, but talk about Black Eats Week and what does that mean, and how can I take part in that?
Yeah, it's just basically Columbia Restaurant Week, just with Black restaurants and not traditional Southern restaurants. Like we had a Nigerian restaurant on there who participated last year. We had a Jamaican restaurant. We had a Trinidadian restaurant, and they're all over town. Like one, like West Columbia, Lexington, Northeast, different genres. So it's just one of those things to kind of bring attention to it, because the restaurants that participate with Columbia Restaurant Week are part of, I think, the South Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association. So, there's over 100 Black restaurants here, which I didn't know.
Right.
But of course, being a realtor, and if I'm in, traveling different places, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know what this place was,
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where I stumbled upon it. So I was like, did a little research. And some of the restaurants who participated, I mean, they all were, featured on all the news stations and the platforms. So we hope for this year that we'll have larger participation. It's in its third year.
Yeah.
It continues to grow.
That's awesome.
What are some of the challenges that you have, and how did you overcome them when you decide, oh, I'm going to do an 803 week or 803 day or a restaurant week, or all the different things you tackle? You must come up against some sort of, challenges or oppositions, and how do you kind of overcome those?
Oh, yeah. Lots of challenges. Well, I'm from here. So I would say the main challenge would be new ideas and support. Columbia is more of a bandwagon town. So, we
As
go
somebody
to
who's been
Charlotte.
around here a long time, you heard the snicker, right? When she said that, that's totally a bandwagon town.
It's true, and it's
Yeah.
unfortunate because pitching new ideas here needs validation. And so I am incredibly grateful for the people who are like, we're going to support you, we're going to sponsor this, because they see a vision of growth.
Yeah.
That would be the main challenge. Also, just people stealing your ideas. Actually for 803 Day, there were some people who originally I was going to do an 803 Day concert after the festival of local artists, past and present, and I tried to get a concert promoter involved and asked him to meet with us. We had been meeting regularly every week, and we asked him to meet, and the very next day he created a flyer on Facebook and was like, 803 Day, everybody come see me.
Oh, wow.
So we had to get some legal stuff involved. Luckily, everything that I do is trademarked before I announce it. So he didn't know that. But that would be another challenge. So I would say the main two challenges are creating that need of support for fresh ideas here, and also just, intellectual property.
Yeah. But also, I guess good ideas are good ideas. And, it's like you kind of, it's tempting for people to say that is a really good idea. We should do that. Right.
Yeah.
I love I love any attempt to step out and just say, let's try this new thing. What do you think the secret to the success of these things is?
and I keep saying I keep trying to tell
No, you're
myself
good.
not to say
It's fine. It's just a conversation. That's what
right.
people do when we talk. So it's no problem.
I would say the success is due to people who have a vision of wanting Columbia to be more. And I guess another challenge that I just thought of just now was for support financially. Most things here you have to be a nonprofit, and I'm not a nonprofit. So financially, that's been a challenge because people are like, "Oh, I want to support you, but it's not a nonprofit." And I'm like, "But it's still a tax write-off because it's marketing dollars. Like it still
Still an
can write it
expense.
off,
Yeah.
right?" So I think the support. The success of the support is due to people seeing fresh ideas and having a little bit of pride, having something to brag on, because everyone goes to Charleston or Atlanta or Charlotte to do things, to go to their events. But now they can say, well, we have 803 Day here, or
Yeah.
we have this here. So I think that's probably one part of it. Is having some kind of sense of hometown pride.
Yeah, it's interesting as a bandwagon town that we also love new things. We like. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago there was a food truck festival at the fairgrounds. I don't know if you remember this, but I
don't think I was
I only
here then.
remembered it because we attempted to go to it and got stuck in traffic for about 35 minutes, and we were like, we're done. We got on the exit and flipped out and went home and made PB&Js and had our lunch, but we love it when there's something cool like that goes on. It's anytime something like once the Fireflies thing at Congaree Swamp got like so popular that it was a madhouse down there. And I remember the last year before they did the lottery, like we went down to it, and I mean, you were shoulder to shoulder with people and front to back with people, just sitting out in the middle of the forest at night waiting for these fireflies to come out. And it wasn't enjoyable, right? But it was just, once we found out about it, we were like, oh my God, we got to go do this, right? And I think that's a really unique character of Columbia that if somebody comes up with a cool idea, something that really kind of resonates, people get into it. And I think the bandwagon thing is probably those folks who aren't on the edge of that thing. If we're out in the suburbs, looking for something to do on a weekend, we're like, well, might as well do this. Everybody else is doing it, Soda City Market's another great example of that.
Yes.
Like it's just caught fire, and is now easily, anybody asks on any of the Facebook groups, what should we do in Columbia? Soda City Market is almost always at the top of the list, right?
Definitely.
And I think I think Columbia is a very unique town for that kind of thing, where maybe you wouldn't be able to get a big four or five block market started in a bigger city without knowing the mayor, knowing people who would move things, but they just organically grew that thing, which I think is very cool. So what's next? What are you adding on to the list? Because if I know ambitious people, 3 things or 4 things isn't enough. There's always something on the foreground.
We've got a few things coming up. I'm on the board of Keep the Midlands Beautiful. So I've got a 5K coming up for them. I'm also on the board of Richland County Public Education Partners. We've got Sprint for Scholars coming up, 5K as well. And then we have something that's in the works that waiting on the trademark to come back from.
Can't talk about it yet. I got it.
Yeah, but
don't anybody taking your idea. Yeah. So
but
are
it's
you a
for
runner?
charity.
Because you have a lot of 5Ks involved in.
So I used to be a walker,
Okay.
or a hasty pace, as I like to say.
Hasty pace, I like that.
Yeah, I started doing the Cooper River Bridge Run in
Oh, yeah.
Charleston. And
Right.
so I used to do it every year before COVID. And then when COVID came in 2020 and they did the whole virtual thing, I was like, well, I already do this at home.
Yeah.
But after everything got back, together, I was like, well, maybe I should do this for, other organizations and kind of help. So I got with Strictly Running. So for 803 Day last year, the Cola Rose Shower, which is another board that I'm on, was a beneficiary of that as well.
Do you know how many boards you're on?
So I'm on 4 boards, and I'm a Richland County Commissioner.
Oh, what?
For
I thought I saw that on your Instagram. That's a lot.
Yeah. So right now, so I'm District 9, appointed by Councilwoman Jessica Mackey. I am on the Conservation Commission, which is all about history, which is up my alley, and preservation. And we give grant money up to $50,000 to individuals, nonprofits, organizations, businesses, anything that has to do with the preservation of Richland County, whether it's, a building that needs to be, needs new windows, or whether it's a project like a book or a documentary about something with the history.
Yeah, that's really cool. We did a project, I guess it may have been summer before last, with Central Carolina Community Foundation about the Rosenwald schools. I don't know if you know, something I didn't really know anything about. We went out to one of the Rosenwald schools that is still in
Piney Woods.
I don't remember where it is now, to be honest, but it was behind a church. So it was like there was a church, and then the school was like right next to the church, and they were renovating the school so that they could turn it into a building for the church. But it's really interesting stuff. I mean, there's so much cool history. I was explaining we went for a ride on the Riverwalk this past weekend, and I was talking to my daughter about the Ginyard Brickworks down there, and showing kind of that the tracks go towards the quarry, right? And they had red clay in the quarry until they ate up all the red clay and made bricks out of it. And now they're getting granite out of the quarry because they got down to a point where they only have granite. And so it's kind of interesting, all of the stuff that you could learn about Columbia, definitely.
Yeah. Right. Actually, right now in the Solar City Certified app, we have a Black History Month scavenger hunt, and one of the Rosenwald schools is on there. Next month, we're going to have a Women's History Month scavenger hunt, and we're going to do something for Pride for Asian American or Asian Pacific American. Was it Pacific Asian?
Islander.
Pacific Islander Asian. Yeah, I need to get that right. So we're going to do things for everything in Columbia to kind of show that, everyone has had some kind of contribution. So I actually learned about Rosenwald schools last year. And so with that scavenger hunt, I was like, wow, I'm all over the city, and I had no idea that this was a marker here and a marker there. So I'm just a nerd when it comes to learning.
Yeah, it's cool though, right?
Yeah.
Because I guess I figure my interest in history has become because of my age. Like, I'm kind of required to get interested in history. As you get into your late 40s, early 50s, you have to go, I guess history is important, Like, it wasn't interesting until just now, but
You definitely don't want to repeat the past.
no, I mean, that's probably right. It wasn't that good, right? So we should probably move forward. Well, talk to me about kind of what advice would you have for somebody that was wanting to get involved, get things started? If you're sitting around saying, "Hey, I wish there were more stuff to do," what advice would you
I would
for
say
that?
number one, get involved with CORE. When I first moved back here, CORE stands for Columbia Opportunity Resource. That is an organization that connects anyone. It's known for young professionals, but it's anyone across the board. They have Crash Course Columbia, which is a one-day behind-the-scenes type of thing. You get to go behind the scenes at the zoo, and you get to explore different sides of town. So CORE, I would say number one, if anyone wants to get involved. You meet a lot of people in the different industries, and also just kind of follow some of the key community leaders here, some of the elected officials who are always busy and doing things. Subscribe to newsletters from whatever area you're in, whether you're, Forest Acres or City of Columbia or Blythewood, wherever. They all have their own, way of creating awareness, and just kind of get out there.
Yeah. Get into your community probably, because like we live in Irmo. So like, Irmo's not a super active community to get involved in, but my wife,
I hear they have some great markets.
yeah,
a couple
right.
times a month.
My wife started doing markets in Irmo a couple of years ago. And so she's partnering with the city of Irmo, or the town of Irmo, to bring markets to the Irmo Park and stuff like that. And so look, she's run across problems. They won't let her put signs up. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
They sponsor the market, but they won't let her put a sign up to let people know that the market is there until the day of the market.
Yeah.
Like, so you can't let people know what's happening until the day it's happened. So it's all these weird little things that you have to deal
Yeah.
with when it comes to that kind of stuff. Well, where can people find you online? Where would you want to direct them to figure out what you're doing?
Whew. So I manage like 27 Facebook, Instagram pages.
Good gracious, that's a lot.
Between mine and my clients, because I do, I have a PR firm as well, so I do work for other clients as well.
Of course, because yeah, just one more thing.
Right.
No problem.
Yeah, so Facebook, it's Khali Gallman. Same thing on LinkedIn. My personal Instagram is I Like What I Like 8. My real estate Instagram is Epitome of Real Estate. So Soda City Certified app has their own Instagram page. So it's a lot. But yeah, I can be found.
That's cool, and on the hot list. So I should point out it's the Free Times hot list, and on there is like Brad Shank from the Fireflies and Tim at Lula Drake and like Kiki from Kiki's Chicken and Waffles. Like there's a bunch of like heavy hitters on that list. So that's a very Christian Nimi who was on our podcast in the fall. So that's a cool list to be on, definitely. So,
Yeah. Christian's restaurants are on the app, on my Soda City Certified app as
nice.
well. Yeah.
So who are some of the? I'm still fascinated in this Black Restaurant Week. So what are some of the restaurants on this list for Black Restaurant Week?
So we just started promoting. So it's always in June. So we just started promoting. No one signed up yet. Last year we had Mr. Seafood, Trini Lime, Calabash Caribbean. Trying to think of.
I think I've been to Calabash Caribbean. It's the one over on
Bush River.
Yeah.
Oh, it's St. Andrews.
Yeah, right there.
On the corner.
Yep, I think I've been to that one.
Yeah, they're Jamaican restaurant. Trini Lime is in West Columbia. That's Trinidadian. Mr. Seafood is in Northeast Columbia. That's seafood. Trying to think of what else. I'm getting a brain fart now. But yeah, so we just started promoting for restaurants to sign up for this year. So hopefully we'll have a more complete list as it goes. A lot of restaurants sign up late.
Okay. That's cool. Well, I'll definitely keep an eye. But you and I'll stay connected, so I'll get that update. Well, Khali, thank you so much for being on. We always try to end up our podcast with
Five favorites.
Five favorites. So questions. First question for you is, what would your last meal be on death row?
Hopefully I won't be on death row.
Hopefully not, but it's the one bright side, right? You get to just eat whatever you want for the last meal.
My favorite food is salmon.
Oh.
So I'm traditional, like salmon, broccoli, and macaroni. I'm not macaroni and cheese, and mashed potatoes.
Okay.
That traditional meal, that's me. I can eat salmon, broccoli, and mashed potatoes every day.
Nice. Okay. That's one we've not heard. So that's really cool.
So boring.
Yeah, well, whatever. No, it's not. That's just what you like, right? Mine was cheeseburger, so
Okay.
I would have a very specific cheeseburger for my last meal. What is your favorite TV show?
I watch a lot of Netflix. I watch a lot of documentaries on Netflix, but probably the first thing that came to mind is Succession on HBO.
Succession is incredible.
Yeah, that's probably been my fave so far.
Right.
Of repeat.
Succession is a masterclass
It is.
in a lot of ways, writing and acting and everything else. And I love that there is one soundtrack and they play that soundtrack over and over again in every episode in 30 different ways.
Yeah.
And you never get sick of the soundtrack. I can't understand it. It's one piece of music.
It's intense.
That is played for the whole hour for every episode. And it always works, and I can't figure out how they do that. I get sick of music so quickly, and like for some reason they do that. Succession's amazing. We haven't heard Succession on the show yet, so that's great. So you're 2 for 2. So what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie. I don't know. I'm more of a comedy person. I can't. There's so many that just came up. Probably it's an old movie, Boomerang.
Oh yeah,
That was how I knew I wanted to wanted to do marketing because
yeah.
Eddie Murphy
Eddie
was like
Murphy.
the
Yeah,
marketing guy. And I was like, oh, he has a nice house. He has the ladies. He has all this
yeah.
going on. I was like, whatever marketing is, I want to do it because everyone loves him.
It's towards the back end of Eddie's like late '80s, early '90s thing. He, I think, once what was that one? There was that one movie that hit, and he was just like, everybody's like, nope,
Beverly
nope,
Hills
no
Cop?
more Eddie. No, I'm saying like he reached the end of it in the mid '90s or somewhere, and there was one movie. Trying to think of what the movie was. He played an alien. I can't remember the name of the movie.
I don't remember
I don't remember an alien movie.
Yeah, but it tanked it. It was like, okay, like he got up to, you remember the Nutty Professor, and he did all the characters around the
Dr.
table.
Doolittle.
Dr. Doolittle.
No, Dr. Doolittle was well, maybe I'm thinking about it wrong. That was Robert Downey Jr.
No,
this-
he did Dr. Doolittle too.
Did he do that too?
Yeah.
Well, Nutty Professor was the one where the mom was like, Hercules.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
that was, I mean, look,
Yeah.
that movie was amazing. But that was down towards the end. But Boomerang was somewhere in that area.
Yeah, that was before.
I think Steve Martin was in that too, or some other big comedian was in that.
Somebody else was in there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, since we're 2 days from the Super Bowl, what's your favorite Super Bowl halftime performance?
Let's see. So I'm not a big football person.
Right, me neither.
So
I'm a huge
trying
halftime person.
I wouldn't even know. I'm a like commercial person.
Yeah,
like
me
I
too.
watch the commercials.
Totally.
I don't even have a range of like 5 performances I've seen.
Really? Okay. Man, I like dig into the halftime every year.
I need to do that.
Because it's such an interesting performance because they've got to set it up in a few minutes and break it down in a few minutes. And it's got to be a giant set piece. So like it's always amazing to me how they're able to set it up and break it down.
Yeah. All I remember really is I remember the shocking value ones. Like I was in college with Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake.
Yep.
And then,
me too.
And I guess Beyonce.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yep.
That's the standard answer.
I saw the Prince one where he played Purple Rain in the rain. And
that one, yeah.
That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Bears lost that one. I was not happy.
Oh,
about
wow. Okay. See, I didn't remember the football part. See, Brian watches for the football part. And so I had to go into this year going, okay, it's the Chiefs and the Eagles. Okay, got it. Like, who's the better team? I always ask that question. Not who's your favorite team, but who's the better team? Tell me the truth. Like, who's going to win this, you know?
And see, I'm a player person because I'm like, Travis or Jalen, they both
Ah.
win for me.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
why I
Everybody
don't
was
watch football.
everybody at my particular Super Bowl party, and I think it's so funny. The Super Bowl has become a holiday. Everybody gets together like Thanksgiving. It's like everybody gets. Where are you going for the Super Bowl? And I, watch the game. I guess most of the time. This wasn't a super exciting game that I.
Unless you were an Eagles fan.
I spent most of the time outside. I would because it was so beautiful outside, and so we were sitting out on the porch most of the time, like listening in for it. Like, oh, did something happen? But they were mostly against Travis Kelce because of the Taylor Swift connection. Mm-hmm. Like he's connected to Taylor, so that we're definitely not watching this for the Chiefs. But I would have been interested in seeing a three-peat. That would have been interesting. But I'm not. I don't follow NFL enough to.
Would have been the first one in NFL history.
I know, it's crazy.
Oh, really? Tom Brady didn't do?
So he won 7, but he never did 3 in a row.
Oh.
Yeah. So the Patriots had a lot of wins, but no more than 2 in a row.
Okay.
Yeah.
The mere fact that they went to 5 straight Super Bowls,
Right.
is incredible in itself.
Right. Yeah. But I'm like you. I don't follow the NFL at all. So like I know these tangential statistics that mean something to NFL people, just so I could talk to them about it a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I don't follow it enough to know anything about it. Okay, I've got 1 more, 2 more. I got 1 more.
1 more.
1 more. Favorite season.
Favorite season? Probably fall.
Yeah.
Fall's great. It's that good in between weather. Nighttime is still like relatively hot here. So definitely fall.
It's the big winter by far. Is almost everybody said fall so far. We've had no springs, which I think
I was
is
like,
fascinating.
really? Snow spring?
Allergies.
Yeah, allergies. Yeah, the pollen. Get no pollen in the fall, you know.
Yeah.
And then you got college football, so like you know you can enter the college football into it.
I do watch college football and basketball.
Yeah,
So
and that's what happens. I think in South Carolina, we were talking about this on Sunday, like because you grew up, Brian grew up in Wisconsin, so you were close enough to professional teams that you could feel like Chicago was your team.
Yeah.
Right. We don't really have a team that we feel like is our team, except maybe the Panthers, but they've only done good a little bit, you know, here and there. And so, and Atlanta, I guess maybe when I was a kid, you know, but Atlanta wasn't good when I was a kid. And so we just never got connected to football teams other than when William Perry joined the Bears in the 80s. He was a Clemson guy. So, you know, the Bears became our team, you know, for a minute while they were in the Super Bowl. But I was talking to them about the fact that, you know, obviously it's our lifeblood is college sports here, you know, and we don't get into the professional sports quite as much. And so
we had an opportunity, you know, Panthers wanted to come here.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
you
we were
know.
like, no, we don't want professional sports here. That's crazy.
We don't want industry to come.
Yeah, not South Carolina. Come on, don't
Yeah.
don't you try building that on our land. You know, take that back up into North Carolina where it belongs. Well, Khali, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We appreciate it, and we'll catch up with all of the weeks coming up that you got going on.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all
Thank
for
you.
having me.